welcome to Nerd Social. I am Nathan,
And I'm Colin.
running a little bit late tonight, but we are planning to talk about What If, and also the newest episode of Titans, episode 4. So, What If episode 2, and Titans episode 4, season 3. So,
Mhm.
as always, what we will do is start with our spoiler free thoughts about the episodes and then go into spoiler talk. So, we're going to start with What If. So, what did you think of the newest episode of What If, Colin?
I think that this episode was really amazing. I think that a reimagining of the Guardians of the Galaxy in a way that was very special, I would say, and really played up the heroic nature of T'Challa, which is very apt. I think that with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, this is really a very good tribute in terms of his legacy and how he really was a very shining light to basically humanity. And so I think that this really showed a lot of his humanity in this episode, and I really felt, Todd, just I went through the episode. I was very emotional about it, not like really deeply emotional, but I did feel as though they played him right in terms of the character beats, and just having him having had that presence was really important overall. And yeah, I it's just a very beautiful episode overall. Very much liked it more than the first episode, but it's probably because of the impact of Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, I think I liked it better as well, but I think it. I mean, the fact that Chad, this is one of his last performances. I don't think um, factoring it as much for me. I mean,
Okay.
I definitely thought about it, but it was mostly about the fact that it was such a good representation of, like you said, T'Challa, the character that he made famous.
Hmm.
Why he was like good, even if he didn't grow up to become the Black Panther. His goodness. So this episode, without giving away too many or giving away any spoilers, uh, is better than the first episode, mainly because it has more time to breathe. So like to be fair to the first episode, they're trying to redo the first Avenger, which only took place within the span of maybe a year or whatever. Whereas they're telling a story here that takes place over many years. So the character's impact, the change that what if change has more time to ripple out, and you can they go kind of go wild with the changes that happen in the when Star Lord becomes sorry when T'Challa becomes Star Lord, which is the name of the episode. What if T'Challa became Star Lord or something to that effect. So
Hmm.
I appreciated that they went wild with the what if implications here because because that would change a lot of different things. And they were really imaginative about how that would change things, and some things for good. And without getting into spoilers again, some things were bad. So yeah, it was a really good episode. I appreciated what they did. Without it's difficult to get it. I actually have when we break this down, we actually have more photos of this 30-minute episode than I do of the hour episode of of Titans, because just more stuff happened. They plot back so much stuff into the plot, and there were just so many cool screenshots. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was a really good, it was a good episode. Definitely looking forward to this show every week. Sort of like I was looking forward to what they're going to do with WandaVision every week. Even though WandaVision was one narrative, I'm interested to see what the what if is going to be the next week, and what wild changes they make to the MCU in the
Hmm.
alternate universe. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Definitely.
Unless you have any more spoilers-free thoughts, I mean, it's difficult to really talk about this episode without spoilers. We can jump into spoiler talk.
Yeah,
so,
we could do that.
So past this point, we say go see the episode, and then we can jump into spoiler talk. And actually, I'm gonna jump over to some screenshots that I have here. We start off the episode at Morag and the abandoned planet, the same place that we start Guardians of the Galaxy. Right? There's no mixtape here, or soundtrack, but the exact location is exactly the same. But it turns out a little bit different. So this Star-Lord goes to the cavern. He tries to get the thing, and he's confronted by Korath. But Korath recognizes him, and he's so enamored by him. Before T'Challa even says, "You might know me by another name," he says Star-Lord. So apparently his legend he's legend across the galaxy, which is funny. It's funny that they decided to write that different that one change rather, especially since he was his reaction was like who in the original movie.
Yeah, I found it very interesting in that they kind of reimagined it, but again, it's kind of interesting in many ways in that it's probably due to upbringing as well, because if you think about it, T'Challa is grown up in royalty.
Yeah,
when he was a child.
Yeah, he was groomed to be a prince. He was groomed to be a ruler. So he took the spoiler thing off. He was raised to be sort of a diplomat. He was raised to be kind and whatever. He probably had I don't know what I think Peter Quill was abducted at 8. I guess T'Challa in this episode kind of looked around the same age, but even at 8, I'm sure he had a much better education than Peter Quill had.
Absolutely, and I think that definitely does play it. And then also, I think that as he kind of grew into this version of Star-Lord, I think that because of all that he had learned as a child, it kind of, and also the good qualities of T'Challa,
right?
It kind of made him to be this type of legendary figure. Whereas, like for Peter Quill, it was kind of very different. I mean, he didn't have his dad there.
He didn't have
his mom. His mom was sick.
Right.
Yeah.
He had that trauma as well. So like he like Correct. You said, T'Challa had both of his parents. Both of his parents were regal and probably taught him quite a bit. T'Challa didn't have the pain of losing his mother. So yeah, it was completely. You can understand why he turned out differently.
Correct.
So they actually jump from this. Well, after this, we get a Korath actually trying to fight him and being honored to fight him, even though he loses. He's knocked out with a smile on his face because he got to fight the legendary Star-Lord. He leaves the temple, and unlike in the original Guardians, he's not there by himself. He's there with I forget his name off the top of my head. Yondu is there. He isn't running from the Ravengers. He's transformed the Ravengers, and you can see his ship there is called the Mandela and not the Alyssa Milano. So completely different Star-Lord. Completely different references and also influences. Because I mean, at this point, it would have been in the 80s that he was abducted, so Mandela would have still been in prison. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then we get a flashback to when he was abducted or how he was abducted. Apparently Yondu outsourced this to Kraglin and Taserface. Taserface, and they picked him up because of all the weird readings because of the vibranium. So that's actually pretty plausible. They were trying to find a weird alien kid on planet Earth, and they they got all these readings from the Wakanda because of the vibranium. So that actually makes sense.
Yes, it does.
It makes sense also because they're dumb. Both of these both of these guys are idiots. So
yeah.
This is him pointing at his ear holes and his eye holes. So T'Challa decides to go with him because he wants to explore. Actually, before this scene, we get a conversation with his father, telling him that there's nothing outside of the Wakanda except for war and destruction of mankind. So that we skip ahead and we find out that T'Challa has talked Thanos out of his Infinity War plot, which again is very, very, very interesting. And they have a lot of fun with this because they basically come up with the theories that people have been talking about for the last several years, since Infinity War. Why didn't he just increase resources instead of genocide? And they keep saying that it's genocide. This Korath called him Captain Genocide, and he beats him up later on for that. So I thought that was a pretty interesting twist. This is what I was talking about earlier at the beginning. What I was saying, they kind of went wild with all the things that could change if you change just one thing.
Yeah, I just found it very, very funny that Thanos still has that thinking. Yeah. He still has the thinking. He still has that.
He's still efficient. I think it's efficient.
It's efficient. But then he is but he is still committed to it. But at the same time, it's like, I got talked out of it by T'Challa because I think he's just so he's so regal. He's so charismatic about it.
Yeah,
and to the point where it's like, wow, he was able to talk down Thanos. That's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, it is. But like I said, I mean, later on we get other ramifications. He stopped one universe destroying thing because in another universe destroying thing might happen because he was the wrong kid to be picked up. So we get so Thanos is actually part of the crew, part of the Ravagers crew. Because I assume whatever T'Challa said, he got him to go along with him on this journey because he said that he was going to actually meet his or he was going to get to his goal in a different way, and we actually get that in the next couple scenes when Nebula shows up. So first we see Drax, and Drax doesn't know who he is. Except for the fact that he saved his family, so his wife and his daughter are alive. This is like one of the only actors from the original movies who did not come back to voice his character. Dave Bautista. No, I think Dave said that he wasn't asked, but that's kind of weird that he wasn't asked and everybody else was asked. Only he and who plays Peter Quill? You remember?
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. He and Chris Pratt are the only people from the entire cast of either movie. So they got people from Black Panther and in Guardians to come back. Pretty much everyone. So I don't know why I didn't ask David Bautista to come back because. Even at the very end, we get Star-Lord's father, and that's
I think that's probably due to there's a lot. I think there's a lot of tension between Marvel and Dave Bautista. I think that even today, I read that he was trying to jump ship to DC. They offered him something to play one of the characters, so they're speculating online what that might be. So I also think that probably Bautista had been rubbed the wrong way by the James Gunn firing earlier.
But
there's a lot of that going on.
I thought that was the case too, because Bautista said he wasn't asked, but Sean Gunn came back. Sean Gunn is in this episode. Sean Gunn voices his character Kraglin. So I can't imagine that Dave Bautista is more upset about what happened to James Gunn than his brother is, but whatever.
Yeah. But also, I think that he's been getting. I think Dave Bautista's been getting a lot of work. So it could be not any drama related stuff. It could be just that he's gotten a lot of work and he's not available actually.
This guy sounded just like him though, he had the same exact delivery. Like he's very literal. He's like, you look awful, but yeah, it's a great picture of me, but you're awful. This whole episode was funny. Some of it was corny funny, but I chuckled a lot in this episode. It was very lighthearted, and also it's a heist episode.
Right.
So we see Nebula with a completely different look. Actually, a look that's very similar to the comics because I think she has blonde hair in the comics, and she looks less damaged because I guess T'Challa got to Thanos before he did so many experiments on her that she lost her hair apparently, and she looks far less experimented on. So that this is
right.
So she tells him about this heist that can probably satisfy what he talked Thanos into. This plant, this thing that can grow plants for any civilization or whatever. I forget what they called it in the episode, but it's like a terraforming kind of thing. So they're going to try to steal this from the Collector, who apparently took over for Thanos as the biggest bad in the universe after he decided to go straight. And that's interesting. Because you wouldn't necessarily think that the Collector is that bad, especially from the first time we saw him was in Thor, the Dark World at the end.
Yep.
And then we saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we saw him again dying in Infinity War. But yeah, how they reimagined the Collector in this episode is actually pretty interesting as well. I mean, if Thanos wasn't the power in the universe, what would the Collector collect, and also how would he modify himself? Because he looks very different.
Correct.
So we see Karina again. Even this actress from the movie, by the way, is voicing her. It's the same person. So it's just Peter Quill and Drax who don't get the same person come back and voice their character. So Karina meets up with Yondu and Nebula as they try to hatch their plot, and their part of their plot is to distract the Cull Obsidian and Proxima Midnight. I forget the other Ebony Maw
yeah.
And I forget the last guy, the big guy.
Cull Obsidian was the big guy, wasn't he?
Oh, okay. Cull Obsidian, Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, and then her husband. You remember?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the guy. Forgot. I don't. Was he in that? Was he in this or not?
He was there.
I didn't.
He was there. I think.
Oh, he was there.
Yeah,
okay.
He was there. I'm pretty sure Nebula shot him.
Okay.
Yeah. So the what is it? The Dark Order or the I forget what it's.
The Black Order.
The Black Order. Yeah. So he has the Black Order as his bodyguards, basically. And they have this distraction, which again is funny. He says, "Call me Captain Genocide again," and he throws him. The Collectors. This is actually a pretty good. I mean, when you have animation, you kind of have like an infinite budget, but I feel like they could have done this in computer graphics as well. In the original Guardians movie, I feel like this is a much better way of showing how much stuff he's collected. I don't know if Jessica didn't have the budget in the first movie or what, or he put the budget in other places, but this is a pretty good representation of how much stuff he has. I've seen similar things in other like comics and also other cartoons as well, so this is I appreciated this. Kind of goes out into forever, his collection. So he runs into Howard the Duck a little bit. Howard the Duck actually has a bit more lines here than he had at the end of the Guardians movie. Also very unreliable because he stops to have another drink even though he has a drink in his hand. And then T'Challa stumbles upon his father's ship, which apparently his whatchamacallit was lying to him. Yondu was lying to him because earlier on we hear that T'Challa's Wakanda was destroyed in a war, and when they first said that, I was like, oh shoot, I guess because he wasn't there for some reason they were attacked or whatever, or maybe his father was like stricken with grief and he wasn't able to like be the Black Panther anymore. He stopped bleeding properly or something like that. Because in our world, the Wakanda did not get destroyed, so it's this is an interesting reveal. I wasn't actually expecting this. In the middle of the episode, his father sent out ships to find him, and the Collector has collected this ship, and he basically has it as a museum piece with Dora Milaje uniforms and mannequins. So it looks like Nebula double crosses T'Challa, and we have T'Challa in this cell. But apparently it was a triple cross or whatever. This is the Korath is funny throughout this entire episode.
Yeah,
I really appreciate the actor Johnson Hounsou. He doesn't. I think in most of his roles that he does, he doesn't get to be funny. He was very, very funny in this one because he's like, you betrayed my best friend. He's like known him for like a day.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good reimagining of Korath because like in the other one, in the Guardians of the Galaxy, he was kind of like a side character on the
He
side.
didn't have much. He didn't really have much.
He didn't have much to do.
Yeah,
so it was interesting reimagining of him here.
As a matter of fact, he showed up in 2 movies. He showed up in Guardians of the Galaxy, but he also showed up in Captain Marvel, and he didn't have much to do there either.
Yes, he was in Captain Marvel, part of the what's that called? It was not the Nova Corps. It wasn't Alpha Flight. It was part of the Kree.
Yeah, the Kree.
Team.
The Kree team. Yeah, that Marvel was on.
Right.
But yeah, he was in that movie for a little bit. They got him to come back, and they still didn't write much of anything for him. It's a waste of Hounsou. I tell you, he's a great actor. He should do more.
Yes, he is.
But so I'm glad that they actually called him up to do this. I hope he shows up in future episodes because he was funny in this entire in this episode. So yeah, she double crosses or she triple crosses the whatchamacallit, the Black Order. This is actually when she shoots the third guy, which you can't remember his name, and gets them out. So the Collector has been collecting. He has the shield there. He has Thor's hammer. This is what I'm talking about where I say I don't know. Now it's possible that other changes are going on in this universe as well, as opposed to in addition to T'Challa making this decision. But at this point, Captain America wasn't defeated. Thor wasn't defeated. Whatever the vacuum that Thanos created allowed a lot of the Earth's heroes to like fall because he has a lot of their weapons there. So this is some unintended or unexpected bad side to the T'Challa being the savior of the galaxy, because the galaxy seems to be better off, but Earth is not better off in his absence. So yeah. That was interesting. It was also just a bunch of Easter eggs, and we see Hela's headpiece, which lets him generate swords.
Right.
So they're trying to get off the planet while he goes to pick up T'Challa, and he goes to fight Ebony Maw. Sorry, not Ebony Maw. Approximately midnight, and
Color City.
Color City. That's Color City. Yeah. Now, there's been talk online that he should have been able to beat them, but Color City is probably as big as the Hulk. And if you remember from the movie, he had to use the power thing to beat the Hulk, didn't he? Or did he not?
I believe that he did.
I don't remember.
Yeah. No. He use the stones? You mean Thanos? Did he use the stones to beat the Hulk?
Did he use the Power Stone? Because at this point he had.
No, I don't. From Infinity War, no, he did not. I don't think he used the power. He used the Power Stone on Thor, if I remember correctly. He just beat the crap.
There's back and forth on the internet. Like the other thing is that if he didn't do experiments. He didn't do experiments on Nebula. That means he hasn't done experiments on himself either, because it doesn't look like it. But all the experiments that he's doing on Nebula, he's also doing on himself. So he has all kinds of bionic things inside of him, all kinds of strength enhancements. So maybe he didn't do those things to himself. T'Challa got to him before he did all those things to himself, because that's the only thing that would explain him being beat by these two that nearly being killed by these two guys, or he was just or he was just pretending so Nebula would save him. Yeah. Anyway. So we get Yondu catching up with T'Challa, and they hatch a plan, Sticky Fingers or something like that, to take the controller away from the collector, and he ends up in the same cage that he put all his collection in, and he just says karma at the end.
That pretty much is karma there.
Yeah. So we head back to Africa. We see his father, his mother there. They actually brought back I'm blanking Okoye as well. So she's also voicing her. I assume some of these people, because she only has one line here.
Yeah,
I assume a lot of these people got brought in because they're going to show up later on, because Chadwick Boseman is also going to show up later on. So maybe they recorded for this. She recorded this one line for this episode, but she's going to show up later, doing something else. But yeah, here she's saying, this just sounds like genocide to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
And another unintended consequence here of T'Challa being Star-Lord is Peter stayed in was it Idaho or Ohio?
Missouri.
He's basically a worker at Dairy Queen. He probably had a pretty terrible life, and he's going to be very easily manipulated by this guy. So. And yeah, he nearly destroyed the universe because he wanted everything to be him. So that's but the episode ends here, and he says that's another story. I don't know if we're going to get the rest of that story this season, but it's definitely interesting to see what happens after this.
Yeah, basically they'll probably do a parallel episode of like what if Peter Quill did not become Star-Lord, and go from there.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
It should be interesting. So yeah, that was the end of the episode. I'm looking forward to episode 3, which I think has something to do with Loki, but I'm not sure. Do you know what the title of episode 3 is, or have they released it?
That I don't know quite off the top of my head. I am speculating it might be Loki, but I'm not 100% sure. Or it could be the Party Thor one. Thor.
The Party Thor. When you say the Party Thor, you mean the one that says the one in the previews that was like I understand or whatever, or something like that, or yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm looking forward to the next episode. But I think we should move on to Titans, which we have here. And start to talk about what we thought about the fourth episode of Titans. So, spoiler-free thoughts. What did you think of Titans episode 4?
4, yeah. So definitely a very, I say, uneven episode because they kind of diverged a little bit story-wise. Some of the things kind of did not mesh with I mean, there's an A story and B story basically, and so I think that I think it was a little bit uneven, and also the rationale behind it I thought was kind of rushed a little bit. Didn't make much sense as to why they made some of the decisions that they made during it. And I'm not going to give it away right now, but yeah, some of the decision making, I'm not talking about creatively, I'm talking about like the characters decision making was kind of more in question as to why that was or why that is not. And it just left me with more questions rather than anything else in the episode. And hopefully we'll find out the answers to those questions over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for me, it was probably not as successful of an episode as the last episode. But it's difficult to top something so like traumatic or happening in every episode, or something like pulse pounding happening with a literal ticking time bomb. But I feel like this the split narrative of this was less interesting to me. I feel like this is definitely a filler episode or a bridge episode to some more action later on. I did appreciate that there was a very specific thing that happened at the beginning of the episode that I'm not going to spoil, that was an obvious something that after they were writing in a very like perfunctory, villain of the week, CW way, or even like a police procedural way, you could see it like a mile away what the issue was or what the reveal was going to be, but they subverted your expectations for what that was immediately, and I appreciated that. So there was some good writing there, and I appreciated that good writing, but there wasn't much that actually happened in this episode. I think it's mostly like table setting for things to happen later on. I guess technically you could skip this episode. I don't know that. I mean, I doubt that anything that happened in this episode you couldn't get in a recap at the beginning of the next episode. But like I said, I appreciated the writing choice that they made in the middle of the episode. So without, going, I guess belaboring the point, what we can do is start to talk about the start talking about the spoiler. So I'm gonna say spoiler alert here, and we can jump over to some of the screenshots that we have here. So let me just cue them up. Let me see. Where is it? Oh, okay. Cool. All right, so we can jump over the screenshots. All right, so this is we start the episode with Crane getting beat up in a prison, and him saying, and then someone saying, "Red Hood is going to get you." This is the part. This is the part where I appreciated that they subverted expectations here, because it was obvious at this point that Crane orchestrated this, and that he was working with Red Hood. So I'm glad they didn't waste our time for an entire episode with us was on, and then having the reveal at the end that he was working with the Red Hood. I'm glad they basically jumped to, Dick is a excellent detective. He was taught by the best detective in the world. He figured it out immediately, basically, that Crane was orchestrating this. So we did have to, at the beginning of this episode, we also had to deal with the death that happened at the beginning of the last episode. So everyone's mourning the death in this episode at the beginning of this episode, and Dove or Dawn actually goes off to Paris and tries to retire, and also kind of lick her wounds for what happened in the previous episode. I don't know if she's going to show up later on or not. I hope that they haven't written her off. They sort of didn't know what to do with both of their characters, so it's possible that they wrote her off after the killing him. But we'll see. I'd like her to show up again, but it's difficult to actually have Dove without Hawk. They kind of go together.
Yeah, and I think that because it's Minka Kelly, I think that she might just. I mean, it depends in terms of creative things. It might be that they paid her for those small episodes, but they paid her a lot because she is a big name star, and so they probably just paid her for those specific episodes, and then that's all, because she is. I would think that she's pretty expensive in terms of getting her.
I'm actually not that familiar with her. What else is she in?
She was in Friday Night Lights before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she has appeared in a couple of sitcoms in the past. I mean, dramas in the past, but best known for Friday Night Lights on NBC. So yeah, that's why. And she dated a baseball star, so for a little bit.
Okay. So I couldn't place her face because I didn't see that show.
Yeah.
So after he drops her off at or drops her off so she could take the plane to Paris, we go straight to Barbara setting up a transport to protect Crane. I feel like this is writing Barbara as not great, not as great of a detective. So Dick figured out immediately, and Barbara still thinks that Crane is trying to Crane needs the protection. So she's having him transported, but Dick actually goes and takes him. So like I said, I appreciated that they did that. But the rest of this episode is really just on this plot line. It's basically just him talking to Crane and realizing that that Jason told Crane everything, and Jason betrayed all of their trust. So so that's the A plot. The B plot is what's going on with Koriand'r, and the adventure that she has with Gar. So she nearly burns Gar alive for the second time in 2 episodes. And then Gar puts her in a deprivation chamber to try to help her out, even though he's very afraid of her. And he's repaid for that by being stuffed in a trunk and driven out in the middle of nowhere.
He got pretty beat up during this episode. I feel bad for the guy, and also I think that there was a line where he said, it's like he was he was like the therapist for everybody, and I kind of felt bad for that. He was a therapist for Superboy, and he's dealing with her. He's dealing with Koriand'r. He's dealing with the death as well of Hawk. So he has a lot of kind of like this emotional baggage that's like placed on him. So feeling really bad for Gar here.
Yeah, he he had a lot. He had a lot to deal with in this episode. So they find that that she the reason that Koriand'r's been having so many psychotic breaks is because Blackfire has been reaching out to her, and I won't even try to pronounce what Blackfire's Tamaranian name is. I saw it on written the other day, and I don't remember actually how to pronounce it from the animated shows. But her supervillain name is Blackfire. So Blackfire is being held in this facility. Her powers have been taken away from her, drained, and she's being held as a prisoner. So she's been calling out to her sister. She thought she wasn't going to be able to actually hear her, but she did. So she was in these scenes. She decided to actually leave her there. I think we have a couple more scenes with Crane. He tries to run away from Dick, and we switch back and forth to, them hearing about what's happening with the facility.
Yeah.
And her confronting her sister. Again, not a whole lot happens here. We hear a little bit of the backstory about the fact that her sister killed their parents, and her sister blames her for her viciousness because she left her in a pit. Let them put her in a pit, which I guess works on her emotions later on. I really don't understand her decision here, and maybe this is what you were talking about, not understanding her decision to let her out. I mean, she definitely. Yeah. You didn't see at the end of last season, but they tell you here that she killed her boyfriend. She killed her boyfriend in front of her. She killed her boyfriend in front of her, and she killed her parents. And she is a tyrant, like an actual dictator. Like, she killed her parents so she could take over the planet as a dictator. She's killed a lot of people. I don't understand. I mean, she should be in the prison that she was in.
Yeah, I think that maybe it's the fact that she's being experimented upon. She still doesn't deserve that. She's in prison. She lost all her powers. She's in control by the government. I think that she's kind of like, no, I'm not going to basically do that. Like, I can understand it to a certain degree, but at the same time, it's like you justify that. You justify that, but then say, wait a second, you actually killed a lot of people and you killed members of your family. Mm-hmm. So shouldn't you, like you said, Nathan, shouldn't she be in prison because of that? Even though she kind of felt bad that, the government basically owns her in some ways. Maybe she just felt that no one owns her. No one's supposed to own her. And just say, yeah, I'm not going to let anyone own my sister. I'm just going to let, break her out. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. So it's definitely a little. That's where I was coming from in the non-spoiler part, where I didn't really get kind of the line of thinking. Maybe now that I've rationalized it a little bit, maybe I understand it a little bit more. But still, it's still a little bit of a stretch for me.
I mean, I was following your line of rationality, but or rationalization, but I still don't know that it's a reach a little bit because. I mean, unless you're making an argument for prison abolition, people get locked up when they do bad things, and she has done a lot of bad things. So unless you have an aversion to prison in general, and you don't think that we should have prisons in general, and some people believe that, her being in prison is not necessarily a exotic or cruel punishment, because you said they were experimenting on her. I don't think they're experimenting on her. I think they're just dampening her powers. She doesn't look like she's being experimented on. She's just being contained. And he said that they can contain her there for the next couple hundred years, because apparently Tamaranians are very long lived. So I think that whatever they did to her was just to remove her powers so she wasn't dangerous anymore. That's how I understand his explanation. So
yeah. I think also the thing is that what bothered Koriand'r was that she was going to be there forever. Mm-hmm. And even though if this guy that was there passed away, she's still the property of the government. So maybe that kind of motivated her to say, you know what, I'm just going to break her out because of that. But even though, like we've said before, it's still a stretch.
Yeah.
It's still kind of a stretch that you kind of just flip your thinking immediately and say, oh, I'm just going to break her out because of that. It's not that strong of a reason, I would say, strong rationale, unless, like you said, if you have a very big aversion to being imprisoned, then yeah, I can see that. But yeah, it's still very much of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she says at first that she understands, or she's right where she should be, and then she tells her that story about the pit. I don't know. She's feeling guilty. I guess she's feeling guilty
Maybe
about her being in the pit as a child. That's the only thing that makes sense because it doesn't really. I mean, it doesn't track for me. But I guess we had to have some reason for Blackfire to be out because apparently she's going to be part of the rest of the season in some major way.
I guess so. I think that's probably why. It's like how, like, basically the writers are thinking, how do we get her out? Oh, we're just gonna break her out no matter what. And then yeah, we'll like, basically, because she's important in the next few episodes, we just have to break her out. It doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, actually, as you're saying that, that's just bad writing. So I was praising the writing at the beginning because you had Dick not kind of drag this out for the entire episode and like, oh no, Crane is working with the Red Hood. That would have been bad writing in that end, but they put all their brain power into that and decided to just cop out or phone this part in because, like I said, they could have come up with some more creative reason why. They could have just given him a couple of lines, like he was actually experimenting on her, like she.
That could have been.
That could have been a reason to break her out. But I don't think he was. Like I said, I think they just dampened her powers. So yeah. Anyway, you can stop complaining about that. Like, but yeah, this is when he was talking about the fact that they were going to keep her there for hundreds of years, even after he's gone. So, she breaks her out. She goes back and she breaks her out, and she immediately starts complaining about the car and how filthy it is. And they also immediately start to regret that they did that. So that's because she's an awful person. So she's literally a dictator. So I don't. Anyway. Anyway. We go back to the Dick and Crane and Red Hood because he has him in this in the woods with the expectation that the Red Hood shows up, and he does show up. They fight a little bit, and then Nightwing gets shot. So again, I feel like they also in this episode made Barbara dumber than she is in the comics. I feel like if Dick could figure out that Crane was faking it, Barbara was just as smart as Dick in the comics, and in some cases smarter. Like she takes on the mantle of Oracle, so she's a master like tactician and stuff like so she could have seen that Crane was doing this, and she could have also figured out where Dick was going. So I don't know. I feel like this episode in general was a little shaky for me because of the minimal plot developments and the fact that it was a bridge episode and some of the bonehead things that they underwrote or they diminished Barbara's character and they made Koriand'r make a stupid decision. So yeah. I wasn't too bothered by Barbara's thing, but yeah, maybe because I haven't really read the comics that much in terms of looking at her intellectual capability. I think that I would probably have the same viewpoint if I read more about it. But yeah, it also did not make any sense that she's kind of like almost like spinning around her wheels a little bit, like figuring out where he was. Like, think about it. Yeah, she was Batgirl. She was Batgirl. She knows the hideouts. She knows where they are. There's only a couple. There are only a couple places that he could be going. So,
when the person at the police station said, "Oh, they're going out to some remote place," and then she realized, "Oh, she's going there." I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, you should know that, right? Shouldn't you know that where they're going already? Because, and then the other thing is that what I didn't get was she called him, but didn't track him. Why is that? Like, wouldn't that be like one thing that you should be doing? Is that you should be tracking his vehicle in some ways? I mean, there's supposed to be some sort of GPS device, right? I mean, it's modern. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. You could imagine that. You could imagine that he's technologically capable of disabling any tracking device. But that's
True.
That's kind of besides the point, though. Like he says that she calls him, and he says that he's going to bring him back. So she knows that he's not going to go very far. But she could have deduced where he was going to go. They have a few hideouts around the city, and she could have sent people. I mean, she has. Unlike when she was actually Batgirl, she can actually search multiple places at the same time because she's the commissioner. She can send cops to many places and just search all the hideouts that Batman has. She doesn't even have to say why you're searching this. You just go and search these places. I don't know. I mean, except for like the Batcave, where it would be revealing a little bit too much. I'm sure all the other hideouts you can kind of search around and see and look for Crane. So I don't know. Like I said, that was weird writing. I hope this bridge episode is the low point of the season, because the first 3 episodes were better than this. I'm not gonna say a lot better than this, but they were better than this, and in some places a lot better than this. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, any final thoughts for this episode of Titans?
Yeah, I just think that this was, like you said, kind of an even here and there. I just think that, again, going back to Starfire's decision, I'm like, that didn't make much sense. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense later on. Still looking forward to what transpires. This is kind of like my first time going through a DC, universe TV series. So, I mean, I did watch a little bit of the CW stuff, not too much, but a little bit. But this is supposed to be a little bit of a step up from that, because it's on HBO Max. So, yeah, I'll be interested to kind of figure out how it all shakes out.
Yeah. Well, that's what we think about this episode. Did you like the episode? We really want to hear what you guys think. Comment down below and like and subscribe for more content like this. And we will see you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.